things that always frustrates me is how do we go and find more of this information about some of this earlier manga stuff, Tezuka and prior? I mean, finding this stuff in English is hard.
Well, it is hard, but it's not that hard. I mean, I speak pidgin Japanese.
Okay.
I can just about get by asking for directions or asking what time the train goes or ordering in a simple, basic family restaurant.
Okay.
I can't carry on a conversation. I don't understand sophisticated concepts. Just the basic stuff. I read Japanese even less than I speak Japanese. I cannot function without a dictionary and a great deal of time. But I can go online and I can find stuff that hasn't appeared in English. As far as I know, I search in 4 European languages. I search in English, French, Italian, and Spanish. If I can't find anything in those 4 languages, or what I find in those 4 languages is very scrappy, I go and find a reliable printed source for the name that I'm searching for, or the title that I'm searching for, and I search it in Japanese. And that invariably brings up information. Sometimes not very much information, but it invariably brings up information. And then by a process of comparing the different articles I find, because obviously some information is more reliable than others, some information is more up to date than others. So I try and find 4 or 5 sources, and I work away at them and worry away at them and get the best translation I can. And if I get really stuck, I have several very kind friends who help me out. And in that way, I managed to put quite a lot of information on my blog. I mean, I blog quite often about stuff that I call it unknown in English, and that's my criterion. If I search in English and those 3 other languages, how much can I find? And if what I find is very scrappy, then I go into Japanese. And my aim is just to put some basic information out there, because one of the things that I found when I was doing my first couple of books on anime way back in the 1990s, and one of the things that Jonathan Clements and I observed when we did the anime encyclopedia, is that if people don't know the correct transliteration of the name and the correct transliteration of the title and the date, it's very hard to research anything. So what I wanted to do from the word go, and what Jonathan and I tried to do in the encyclopedia, was just to put out as much accurate information as we could get that would enable people to do further research. Now, because Jonathan reads Japanese extremely well, and understands it even better, he is a much greater resource in terms of actually identifying those titles and names than I am. But no non-Japanese, and in fact many Japanese, can't read every single Japanese name because there are so many variant readings of kanji possible. So it's difficult to do it with total accuracy, but it's easy to do it with enough accuracy that someone else can go away and build on what you've done. And that's always my aim in the little bits and pieces I do on the blog, is to put enough information out there that somebody else with a different skill set or a different knowledge can come back and add to it, or say, you've got this wrong, here's the right stuff. And so bit by bit, we can all build that tower of knowledge higher than it is at present. And if I can do it, as I say, anybody can do it, because I am really not a linguist.
Fair enough. Well, I hope that succeeds. I mean, the amount of stuff you got out there on your blog is just kind of stunning. Every time I come back or come by, I'm like, oh, I've never heard of that before, and that is absolutely fascinating.
Well, I mean, just at the moment, I just blogged about the Princess Knight reprint coming from Vertical, and Vertical are also doing Human Metamorphosis, which I'm so excited about, because it's one of Tezuka's adult books from the 70s, and it is such a postmodern, such a feminist book. It's very dark and very wry and very sardonic. And it's not the sort of book that most people think of Tezuka as doing. If you've read Mu, if you've read Ayako, if you've read Swallowing the Earth, you're kind of in the groove for knowing what you'll get from Human Metamorphosis. But I was just looking at some of the pages online, because I haven't got the book yet, and thinking I could give this book to quite a few of my hardcore feminist friends, and they would just be fascinated and impressed and dazzled by it. Tezuka is so big. There's so much to him that, really, you can start anywhere in that huge body of work and just chip away, and you carve a path to somewhere you never imagined.
Absolutely. And on that note, I think I just want to thank you so much for being part of this. I know we've been going on for a while here, and we can just keep on going for hours, I'm sure.
Well, couldn't we? Actually, something I would like to say, if I may, is just to urge people, particularly in America, you have so many conventions out there. And I love American conventions. They are great fun because they're a huge problem. You go there and you open the convention book, and even at quite a small convention, which for you guys is about, 3,000-4,000 people? Even at quite a small convention, there are more things than you can possibly do.
Yeah.
And more of them now are doing what you would describe, I suppose, or what you might describe as educational strands, where people talk about the history and talk about the development and talk about sometimes seriously the academic background, but sometimes just the layman's interest in where did this come from and why is this happening and who are these people. And I would just love to see everyone who goes to a convention this year go and see one factual or educational piece.
Absolutely.
And see what you think and say your piece about it and let the convention know, did you like it? Did it tell you what you wanted to know? Did it open your horizons? Because if we all start looking at anime and manga as not just some disposable pop culture trend, but as a real serious cultural artifact that also happens to be fun, we can expand people's awareness and knowledge about it in the English-speaking world, and that would be a terrific thing for us all to do.
Absolutely. And I mean, on that note, in fact, just to bolster that, because last year I did a panel on a brief history of anime, and it was at, I think, 9:45 on the Friday of the convention. And I thought, no one's going to show up. It was standing room only. And that wasn't me. It was the first time I'd ever done that. But folks are hungry for this. So absolutely, go and show your support.
And also, of course, a lot of kids get flack from their parents. You're in junior high, you're coming into senior high school, you should be focusing on your education. Why are you doing this anime and manga stuff? If they can take a parent by the hand and take them to a panel at a convention that shows them that this is a literature and an art form that has a history that can be studied, they may get less flack from their parents in future.
Excellent point. Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on here. I am just so glad to have you on there. So, what are you involved in right now? What do you want to plug?
God! Right now, I want to plug. Publishers give me a contract. 3 or 4 projects. Well, seriously, I've been pitching, and I'm quite a successful author, but I've been pitching all this year, and the industry is not in a great state. And so far, I haven't had a project that's bitten. But I've got 3 or 4 projects that I'm looking at. There are a couple of artists that I'm really excited about that I would very much like to do a book along the lines of the Tezuka book. Because people responded so well to seeing all those pictures, to having his life and his work presented, to getting a picture of the man in the round, as it were. And I think that there are several artists who would really, really benefit from that treatment. So I've got a couple of ideas there, and I'm also doing some work in a couple of film journals, and I've got various bits and pieces coming out over the course of the next year. But what I've been getting most excited about lately is my poetry, which I'm working on quite extensively. And the prospect of these 2 new anime books that I hope are going to come together with a publisher very soon. So there's nothing you can actually go out and buy now, apart from my existing work, which I hope you will. But there's a great deal that you may be able to go out and buy in future.
Well, awesome. Well, best of luck with that, and absolutely, please go and get it. I have my copy of the Art of Osamu Tezuka sitting right here next to me. Beautiful book.
Wonderful, thank you.
Absolutely. As it turns out, I was one of the first people in North America to get a copy, because I got a pre-release copy. And I was at a convention. I was like, that comes out in a week. How did you get that? And it's great. But It's great.
These days, it amazes me the impact of the internet on the distribution chain has been colossal. And whereas I'm sure you're not as old as me, but you're old enough to remember the excitement of waiting like 3 months, 2 months, 1 month before a great book or a great show came out. And now, if you know the right people, or you're lucky as you were, you can pick it up like 10 days before, 2 weeks before.
It's a wonderful world.
It is indeed.
So thank you so much for being part of this, and I wish you all the best.
That's a great pleasure. Thank you, Brent, and I hope everybody just goes on enjoying their anime and their manga.
Thank you. Same here. Take care.
You too.